Hello everybody and welcome back, and let us start off by coding our base or digest authentication brute forcer. Now if you're coming from my actual ethical hacking course, you already saw how we can actually brute force a base authentication. Now we will expand that program into digest authentication as well. Now digest authentication is not something that you encounter most of the time, but we can still use it in order to see how you can implement different types of actual authentication into your program, and also you can actually, even after this program is finished, add some other authentications as well. Basic is basically as it says, it is the basic authentication. It is something that you actually encounter while, for example, logging into my router. So let me just show you. If you just go right here to Firefox and try to search the IP address of my router, it will basically prompt you for the actual username and password. So let me just show you. Right here, it prompts this window, then I log in with username and password, and these credentials will actually be delivered over the basic authentication. So let us see how we can actually brute force this. So let me just, as you can see, since I didn't type anything, it says protected object, server is protected. So never mind, let us go to our base, to our brute forces directory, and nano base or digest auth.py. Start off with the usual line, user bin python, and I will import here everything that we will actually need for this actual program. So we can import requests right away, since we know that we are going to use this, as this is our main library in this section. We want to also import the threading library. So from threading, import thread, so we can actually use it with a little less letters in this syntax. We will also need this threading library because we all need to manage different threads that will actually brute force the actual basic authentication. So that's why we are using this library. We will use sys in order to specify the actual arguments for the program itself. We will import time in order to pause our programs if we need to. We will import the getOpt library in order to actually parse our options that we are going to use in our program. And also we want to import something new, which is from requests.auth import http digest auth. So let me just see before I actually import this. Let me see whether we can actually import it in the Python tool. So from requests.auth import http digest auth. So you can see everything works well. It's already in the Python tool, as it is a part of the actual requests library, so nothing really there to worry about. So let us just exit there. Just wanted to make sure before actually starting this program. So base or okay, so this is our program. So what we are going to do with this program is, let us start off with a start function. So let us just type here def start. This function will take a different arguments, and those arguments will be the actual arguments that we specify in our command. Now the command is something that we will run from our terminal, so we want to actually make sure that we also parse those arguments, such as URL, such as number of threads, username, and so on, to this actual function. So in order to do that, let's just use argv, which are our arguments. Let's add the 2 dots so we don't get the error. And first thing that we are going to do is we're going to call a function called banner. Now this banner function is nothing really important. It will just be a simple banner for our program. We can code it right here, just so our program can look a little bit prettier. So print, and we can just do something like this. So 3 open quotes, base or digest brute force auth, doesn't even matter. You can just type here anything you want basically, and make sure to close these 3 single quotes. And this is something that will actually get printed once we start our program, so the user knows what they are running. Just as I said before, nothing really too important. What is important is, as soon as the program starts, before we actually do anything, we want to check out whether the user of this program specified the correct number of arguments. For example, if we want to use 3 arguments for this program, such as URL, the number of threads, and the username, let's say, for example, a user specifies only 2 of those, we will not be able to run our program. Therefore, we need to perform the check even before we begin doing anything else. So in order to do that, we can just use simple if statement. So if length, then open brackets, if length of sys.argv, which is just the arguments from our command, is lesser than 5. Now the reason why we are using 5 is because we are going to have 5 different arguments. First one will be the URL, the second one will be the actual username, the third one will be the file from where we are going to use the password list, so the to brute force. The fourth one will be the method that we are going to use. So you can see that we have base or digest brute force authentication. We need to make sure that we know which method are we using, and we also want to have a the option, which is going to be an option for the thread. So those are 5. So if the arguments are lesser than 5, we want to print a function that we are going to call later, or let's not print it, you can print a function, you can call a function, which we'll call just usage. This function will actually print how you can use the program, but we currently don't really need it. For now on, if the user specifies less amount of actual needed arguments, we'll just quit the program right after printing the usage of this program. If that is not the case, we will try to perform the get opt of those actual different fields or arguments that the user specified. So accept, we will try, and we will accept a get opt error. So get opt dot get opt error, and we will just print in that case error on arguments. We can print it like this, so 2 exclamation marks indicating an error, add a space right here, and close the double quotes. And of course, after that, we want to also quit the program once again. If it does work, we will just use the opts and arguments as 2 different variables, which will store the actual getOpt.getOpt, which is a function from the getOpt library that we imported from these different arguments. And right here, what we need to actually specify are 2 different things. First of all is the arguments themselves, so argv. As you can see, we parse them to this start function right here. And the second thing that we need to specify between the double quotes is the actual letters for these specific arguments. So this is something that you can actually pick for yourself. But from now on, what we will use is for the username, we will use U. For the URL, we will use W. Or pardon me, you do not actually need to separate it with the comma, you separate it with the 2 dots. So U, W. For the actual file containing our passwords, we will specify simply F as a file. For the method, we will use M, and for the threads, we will use T. So simple as that. Okay, so let us continue with our program. Right now, what we are going to do is we are going to use for each option and argument in this opts actual variable that we created right here. So we will iterate over this. What we want to do is check out if, for example, option equals to -u, then we will actually set the user variable to be equal to argument. So the argument will be something coming after the -u, so that is something that we will store in the username. So since that will actually be a username itself. Else if the option equals to -w, this is a URL, so we will just type here URL equals arg. Now we need to do the same for each option, so else if opt equals -f. We need to type here dictionary equals argument. Next thing, else if opt equals to the -m. What we want to type right here is that the method equals argument. And the last one, else if opt equals -t, we will print right here threads equal arg. So these are all our options covered. Basically what we are going to continue in the next lecture is basically running this program. We're going to have a function that is going to launch our threads on these different passwords from the file. We also need to open that file and read from it. So that is something that we'll do in the next lecture. We just started off our program for now on, which is more than enough for the first lecture, and we will continue coding in the next tutorial. So hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!